Hello and welcome to this week's episode. I am going to be dumping my current state of mind. We're just going to wrap up everything that's happened in the last few weeks into this episode and just talk about where my mind currently is and how I'm feeling. I had really been struggling with depression the last few weeks, and during my depression, I just had to learn how to take it slower. I very much value momentum, and I felt as though I wasn't able to do everything I always want to do, but I was learning how to just be more patient with myself, compassionate with myself, just continuing trying to change the way I react to my bipolar disorder and the episodes that I have, allowing myself to not have to accomplish anything and just exist for a little while, let myself learn what I want to learn, experience what I want to experience with the energy that I do have. But something that helped keep me busy while I was depressed was watching my Outliving My Diagnosis videos. I watched through season 1, season 2, and season 3. I watched through the entire series. I love watching Outliving My Diagnosis. It is a huge reminder of all of the work I've put in and all of the progress I've made. All of the decisions I've made have paid off. All of the actions I've taken have paid off. All of the self-reflection and the amount of breaking down my entire life and going crazy and going into psychosis and learning all these new things, moving into my car. Everything I've gone through in my life has just been so worth it, and I feel very fulfilled with all of the decisions I've made in my life. Outliving My Diagnosis season 1 Stephanie, she very much was just struggling. You see Stephanie before she goes on her real healing journey. Like, you're at the start of it. I am trying to be more positive. I'm trying to do certain affirmations, but they're not exactly sticking. I just dump all of my thoughts. My thoughts are disorganized. I don't know how to think yet. I'm not very conscious. Like, something I think back to a lot is when I'm talking about the situation with Uriah. There was this one clip where I was talking about how my friends said that he wasn't ready for a relationship, and I was like, what does that mean? And it means he wasn't ready for a relationship. But at that time, I wasn't even conscious to the fact that I would lie to myself, and because I wanted something, I would create a story in my head. I would try to make reality what I wanted it to be rather than what it is. Season 2 Stephanie is me going through my deconstruction, breaking down my entire identity, learning how to admit when I'm wrong, learning how to let go of my fear of abandonment and the people I've always known. I had to let go of the life that I had never known life without. I had to let go of myself, which I had never known life without, like the version of myself at that time. I was always so scared of going down a path that would decrease my quality of life rather than increase it. I was always so scared of homelessness. What if I prove everybody right? In season 2, I start to break down more of my insecurities, and I start to be more honest with myself, and I'm able to self-reflect a lot more. And then by the end of season 2, especially the last episode of season 2, I'm definitely more conscious. I was starting to learn more. So I was starting to become a different person and change my habits and change my lifestyle, experience life in different ways, and going on adventures, having autonomy and freedom. That time of my life was so imperative, and I just cry watching Outliving My Diagnosis because without that girl, I wouldn't be where I am today. And I watched that girl in season 2, and she was struggling so much with the loss of her best friends. Like, I was overcompensating 1000%. Like, I was trying to make it seem as though I'd already grieved my relationships. Like, I don't care who I lose because I know I had to do this, and I did have to do it. And that was my way of protecting myself, to make sure I did go on that path, to make sure I did do what I knew I had to do. I had to overcompensate for my grief and kind of act as if I was above it when I simply wasn't. I feel like I still grieve my friendship with Riley the most because Riley and I were connecting before everything started to fall apart after I read the Bible. I would drive an hour to go see Riley like it was nothing. Like, I wanted to see her. I wanted to hang out with her. She's someone that I valued so much, and I still do. I forever will. I resented her a bit because I thought maybe out of all of the girls, maybe she would want to go on this journey with me. Maybe she would deconstruct with me and I wouldn't have to do it alone. But I had to go down that journey alone, and I had Emma, which I was very thankful to have. Like, Emma helped me go through my deconstruction, the loss of my best friends, go through all of the hardship. Every single phase that I went through in 2024, even though it wasn't the most beautiful, glamorized, perfect version of me, it helped me get to where I am now. And I will always be able to love and accept the messy parts of myself now. Like, I am not afraid of the darkness. I do not have to shame myself for my mistakes. I do not have to shame myself for the decisions I make. I always just have to do better the next day, and I'm always learning. And that's something I was learning in 2024, was how to just learn and move forward with new information and new understandings and become a different person. So I was constantly shedding old skins, but all the ugly parts in me had to come up first, and I had to express all the ugly parts of me. Season 3, I feel, is probably my favorite season just because I'm more coherent, I'm able to articulate myself better, I'm a version of myself that I feel more proud of. The first few episodes of season 3 were still, it feels like an older version of me, and now I'm like a newer version of me. I change so much. I change so much. So I love being able to see my progress and see the ways I've evolved. One of the biggest lessons that I had learned in the last few months, it was actually the lesson that I learned that changed me fundamentally as a person and led to the breakup with Emma, which we might talk about a little bit more later. It was the lesson of attachment and what attachments actually are. All my life, I've always associated connection and attachment synonymously. When you're connected with someone, let's conceptualize it as you hugging them. When you're hugging this person, not only are you connected to them, but you're also attached. You're simultaneously experiencing both of those things. But then when you let go of each other and you're no longer hugging, you go back to being individuals. You have to know how to live as an individual outside of whatever it is you want to be attached to. In the past, I didn't want to be an individual. I wanted someone else to love me. I wanted someone else to give me everything I wanted. I wanted someone else to take responsibility for me. And so I would attach myself to people, and even after we were done hugging, we disconnected, I would stay attached. They were in control of my life. They were in control of me. Their actions determined my behavior. Their actions determined how I felt. Their actions were how I felt about myself. You know, like I bypassed all of my personal responsibility and I outsourced it to them by attaching to them. I learned that I want to value connection over attachment, because attachment is healthy and you're going to be attached to people, because when you're connecting with them, you're quite literally like attached to them, you know? But I want to be able to disconnect. I want to be able to detach and be a whole person. I want to be able to practice detachment and not lose myself every single time I lose another person. I know who I am, and I'm a secure whole person. Like, I think of my consciousness as my soul, right? And I don't want to lose my soul. I don't want to sell my soul to gain this person. So after I learned that lesson of I've always been attached to things and people, which I can empathize with myself and compassionately understand why, but I no longer also have to do that. Just like the insecurity thing, I no longer have to parasitically attach myself to the things that I care about in my life, because things will come and go. All good things must come to an end, because there are different things to experience. Nothing in this life lasts forever. Change is the most inevitable force of nature, and all my life I just tried to avoid that, dismiss that, reject that, and now I'm much more accepting. I no longer feel like I have to force things. I can just let things go with the flow, put effort into what I want to put effort in, put value into what I want value in return. Attachment is no longer one of my highest values. It was one of my highest values for so long, and now I can practice the art of detachment because I am secure and safe within myself, and I feel safe within my connections because I can always provide, because I know how to recharge and I know how to give to myself. Therefore, I know how to give to others. I also talked about this a couple episodes ago, but one of the biggest lessons aside from attachment and detachment I've learned in my life is responsibility and privileges. I never really understood what responsibilities were and what their purpose was. I was very much raised in a culture of obedience and not understanding. The highest value wasn't knowledge, it was obedience, and so I was told to be responsible, but I wasn't given the knowledge as to what responsibility is and how it can benefit us in our lives and what we gain from it. Everything in life is a give and take. Literally everything in life is a give. Every little thing in life is a give and take. Everything in life is a give and take. And so our responsibilities are what we have to do in order to gain privileges. And so I use the example of my kitchen often, to where I want the privilege of having a clean kitchen. Therefore, I have to take care of the responsibilities of my dishes. All my life, I was being told that I have no responsibility, I lack responsibility, I'm so lazy, I'm so this, I'm such a brat, whatever. But I didn't even know what I wanted out of life, nor did I understand these concepts. But now I know what privileges I want to have and what responsibilities I want to take on. I understand that I have all the control over my life, and that nobody can tell me who I am. Nobody can tell me what I'm supposed to do. Supposed to, should. I don't have to do anything. I am not inherently in debt in life, and I inherently owe life something. I am here co-creating with life, experiencing life, and I choose the responsibilities I want to take on. I want to take on the responsibility of caring for humanity. I want to take on the responsibility of having an apartment. I want to take on the responsibility of having a car. So there are some responsibilities that might not be as fun to have to take care of in order to have the privileges, but the privileges are fun themselves. And I was talking to my neighbor Abby, she's like 11 years old, and I was trying to help her understand the concept of unfun things and fun things. And you can't have fun things without doing the unfun things first. So now that I actually understand what responsibilities and privileges are, I feel like my life has just gotten so much better, because I can take responsibility not only for myself, but for for the things that I have to take care of. I am a very self-centered person. This is something that I am very self-aware about. I have always centered my favorite person or my attachments, and now I conceptualize it as I am my own solar system. I am the sun, and I have planets revolving around me. Those planets being my relationships, my work, my dreams, my family, my hobbies, things that are in my life outside of me that bring me fulfillment. I am responsible for making sure I can maintain all these things in my life. I like to conceptualize Earth as like a partner. So I'm the sun, right? And there's many different planets. There's Mars, there's Venus, there's Jupiter, this and that, and there's also Earth. I centered Earth, and that destroyed my solar system for so long, or that was really all I ever knew. I had such a dysfunctional solar system that was so out of balance because I was centering things that weren't actually in control, but I kept trying to give them control. I kept trying to bypass responsibility. I didn't want to be the sun. I wanted something else to be the sun. I wanted something else to be the authority of my life. And I have a video called Permission Slips all about this stuff, about how oftentimes we're taught that there's this authority that is outside of us. There's this external force that is in control of our lives, and I feel like that removes us of responsibility. It removes us of accountability for the choices that we make in life and how we are responsible for how things play out, the way we feel, the way we think, the things we say, the things we do. We are responsible for that. I have to center myself, and I don't mind being self-centered because I also know I am not the center of the universe. There are billions of other galaxies. There are billions of other solar systems in the universe, and I am not the center of the universe. Life itself does not revolve around me, but my life revolves around me. I am in control of my life and the life that I want to live. What do I want to do? What do I want to accomplish? I choose that. Who am I? I choose that. So I am very much self-centered. But I'm currently in this phase in my life right now where I'm also very self-absorbed, and I do think that they're different things because I don't want to just be absorbed in myself all my life, but I think that because I'm young, I'm in my early 20s, I really want to discover who I am and what I want to do with my life. And I've already always had a broad idea because I've always been very passionate, strong-willed. I have been determined to make change and to fight for injustice and to learn. I am a very strong person. I very much respect myself. I very much love myself, and right now I'm very much absorbed in myself because I need to focus. I need to create a secure foundation, rather. I need to focus on creating a secure foundation for myself. That way, when I'm 25 and I'm no longer absorbed in myself and I start absorbing myself in other things in a safe and healthy way, I'm able to do that in moderation and not lose myself because I created a secure foundation. I learned who I am first before letting anybody else start to tell me who I should be. I need to invest in myself before I invest in anything else because I can't give what I don't have. If I don't have self-consideration, how the fuck am I going to consider others? If I'm not kind to myself, how am I ever going to extend kindness to other people, you know? So I have to invest in myself and be absorbed in myself for a little while to give myself, to learn what I want. Like I was talking with my little sister and I was telling her, figure out what you want to bake and what ingredients do you need to bake that cake. Do you want a caramel cake? What ingredients do you need to make your caramel cake? What are your values and what standards do you need to have to maintain those values? And so that's what I'm doing right now. Like, what are my values? I need to focus on me. I want to continue embodying certain values and focusing on myself in that sense, so that way I can continue contributing those things into the world. Another thing I've been learning is to let go of expectations and to not hold people to expectations they didn't ask to be held to. If someone is not living their life in accordance of my values and my standards, like if this person is not someone I feel as though would fulfill me or bring value into my life in the way I want value in my life, because everyone has value, but we all want different value. I might want caramel, someone's offering vanilla. I love you so much as a human, but I want caramel, so we're gonna go our separate ways. It's my choice who I allow in my life. I can't allow someone in my life. I can't choose to have this person in my life and then get mad that they're not living up to my standards. They're allowed to be exactly who they want to be. I can't force people to be who I want them to be. I have to accept people for who they are. And so I no longer have this expectation that people have to live up to my standards, because people will constantly disappoint you, and they're allowed to, just like I'm allowed to disappoint people. I'm allowed to not live up to their expectations. I'm allowed to not live up to their standard, because my standard is what's important. I can control my standard. I can control how much I live up to my standard. I can't control other people or their behavior. I'm a big believer of intentionally taking action and not taking action by projecting your expectations. Like, you want someone to consider you, so you're considering everyone else in hopes that someone else is going to consider you, because you expect that if you give this, you're going to get that in return. But sometimes when you give value, you're not given the same value in return. And so then you're constantly in this state of disappointment and resentment because I've put myself in debt. I've given you all that I have and you've given me nothing in return, but you chose to give that. You're disrespecting yourself by constantly giving what you don't even have or what you don't want to give just because you want it in the first place. You can't control people, and the more you try to control people or change people in ways they don't want to be controlled or don't want to be changed, the more you're going to learn to resent them and the more you're going to lose control over yourself. So be intentional with who you are and what you give, and don't project your expectations because you're not always going to be reflected back what you want. Recently, I feel as though I've been chasing the idea of having a relationship. I really cared for my coworker. I really ruminated, fantasized, delusionally dreamed about us being something more than what we were, and I started to really crave a relationship just like I had with Barn Guy. Barn Guy was like my first trigger. After Barn Guy, I was like, oh my god, this is what it feels like to like have someone around and to kiss someone and make out with someone and feel intimate. Like, this is amazing. I want more of this, but I couldn't have more of it, not in the way I wanted, so I kept settling for less than I wanted, and I was just disrespecting myself. But I'm definitely more grounded now. I've been processing the situation more. I'm not gonna say I'm completely over it. I still think about him very often. I've cried like every single day, but I just allow myself to feel my feelings and process what I need to process. I have to accept things about myself. I have to accept things about other people. I have to accept things about life, and that's a process, and I'm allowing myself to go through the process no matter how messy it might be sometimes. But I don't want to chase a relationship. I very much want to attract it. Like, there's this metaphor of creating a garden, having a garden and tending to your garden, and then butterflies will come to you. You don't have to chase butterflies because the more you chase, the more you'll repel them, the more they'll be scared, the more it'll run away from you. And so I've seen that pattern in my life. Like, the more I'll chase something that I want, the more it runs. I have no desire to force things anymore. I have no desire to say I should be doing this, I should have that, I should feel this. Should what? Fuck that. That's expectation. Like, oh, I should be doing this. Then do it. Do you want to do it? What you value, what you desire, what you want is going to drive your behavior, not the expectations. Intentions drive behavior. I've been allowing myself to feel sad. I've been allowing myself to feel lonely. And at first I felt shameful, or as though like, well, if you don't want to feel lonely, then you should change your life. Our feelings are information, and they're often warped information, right? Interpreted information. Our body is trying to communicate to us. And just because I'm feeling lonely doesn't mean I need to self-sabotage or ruin what's good in my life because I want an experience that's not currently accessible to me. It will be accessible to me. It is going to happen one day. It is going to flow. It could happen tomorrow. It could happen next week. You never fucking know when shit will happen. And I have no desire to chase experiences because experiences come to me abundantly, and I will experience what's meant for me in the moment and what I desire in the moment. And I'm allowed to yearn. I'm allowed to want something that I don't have, but that doesn't mean I have to take action on those feelings. I'm allowed to process these feelings and learn what they're teaching me and learn how I feel. That's very important. Like, learn what I want, and I do want a relationship, but I don't have to take action on it. It doesn't mean that I have to start having a bunch of shallow relationships that don't bring me fulfillment simply so I don't have to be alone. I would rather be alone for a brief period of time while I wait to find fulfilling connections rather than trying to force a bunch of connections that don't naturally flow. Judgment and hypocrisy, resentment for others. I chose to deconstruct. I chose to move into my car. I chose to become the person that I am. I choose to not text people, call people. I choose to have a certain lifestyle. I choose the path that I'm on. And so when I see people living a different life that is different from mine and that I would deem unproductive, they aren't living life by my values. They're living life by completely different values. And so in different ways, I'll kind of like judge them, being like, you shouldn't be living life that way. That's too selfish. That's too inconsiderate. You're not making change in the world. You're only living for yourself. But they're allowed to live that way, and I will often feel a lot of feelings of resentment for the fact that people don't choose what I choose. I know what I want, and so I'm going to take on the responsibilities I need to take on to have the privileges I want to have. They don't want the privileges I want to have, so they're not going to do what I want to do. So I want to continue breaking down my judgment, and I've already broken down my judgment a lot compared to how judgmental I was in the past, but it's still there. That behavior is still there because there are still things that I need to work on and be aware of and to acknowledge within myself and the world around me. All my life, I've thought of isolation as comfort, avoidance as comfort. I've had this idea idea that the lack of conflict indicated peace, but sometimes conflict is needed, sometimes conflict is important, sometimes discomfort is important, like very important actually. And so when I avoid my responsibilities, or I avoid a conversation, when I avoid things that I know I need to do and get done, that's only going to lead to more discomfort. It often felt like my avoidance and my isolation was secretly a war going on in my head, and I thought the more that I accommodated this war, the more I isolated myself, the more I avoided things that could potentially trigger me, then the war would go away, because if I don't have to fight this war in the first place, then the war will just dissipate. But the war will continue to grow and grow outside of your own awareness. You start to perceive war as peace. You start to perceive avoidance as comfort. You start to perceive isolation as comfort. You start to perceive these things as something that's helping you and benefiting you, because in the moment you're more comfortable, but at the end of the day, your comfort is actually the war that you're avoiding in the first place. There's active and there's passive, and I don't want a passive life. I want to actively make change, you know? There's kinetic and potential energy. I am so kinetic. That's my next tattoo. I am so kinetic. I have so much energy. I have so much momentum. I'm constantly making decisions, using my energy, taking chances. I am doing things, you know? And then there's potential energy, where it's standing still. It has the potential to do something. This ball could roll if something were to push it, but no one's choosing to push it, so it's just potential, right? I don't want passive. I don't want potential. I am kinetic. I am active, and that's the life that I want. So again, there's the resentment of other people avoiding, other people isolating, other people this, other people that, but now I'm taking control of the things that I do want, and I do value discomfort. I do value putting myself in uncomfortable situations where I have to learn or accept, or I have to be exposed to something, whatever it might be. I don't want the absence of conflict in my life. I can handle conflict. I am strong. I am capable. I've gone through so much conflict in my life. I've learned how to almost tolerate it, but not tolerate it in a sense of like I'm constantly going to accept it. I don't want to put myself in a perpetual state of conflict that's unresolved. No, that's war. I don't want war. If I'm put in a state of war, then I will fight it and get to a place of peace. I will try to use peaceful manners to like end the war. You know, like when you're having a war in your head, I hate myself. You can't just fight yourself with violence. You can't fight war with war. I had to be loving with myself, compassionate with myself. I had to be peaceful with myself in the face of war. You have to be peaceful in the face of adversity. You have to be peaceful in the face of conflict, you know, and that's a very hard skill to develop. A lot of people think that you have to fight fire with fire. War is necessary. War is a value because God condoned war. Then we have to continue condoning it. We have to continue perpetuating it because it's divine. War is this glorified thing that must happen to get what you want. But it's like, no, I can get through conflict in a peaceful manner. I can regulate myself. I can feel my feelings. I can get through the adversity, and I can do it in productive ways. I know I'm capable. I know it's possible. I've done it before, and I will continue to persevere, and I will continue to go through these methods that are new to me. Like I used to, again, fight war with war, but now I can fight the wars going on in my head when they present themselves with love, peace, and consideration. So Emma and I did break up like 2 months ago. We are no longer best friends. I am so thankful for the friendship that I had with Emma. It feels like a completion of our friendship. I started to acknowledge that I couldn't give her what she wanted. I was being a bad friend to her within her standards and her expectations. I couldn't live up to her expectations because I didn't want to fulfill some of them. There are certain things that I want that she couldn't give me, and there are so many things that she wanted and even needed that I couldn't give her. And so I tried to acknowledge the reality of that because I no longer felt like attached. Like again, I was already breaking down my attachments. I didn't feel attached to her. Like I can't live without you. I need you to abandon yourself for me. I want you to be who I want you to be, not who you need to be authentically, you know? And I didn't feel that way. Like I love her and I want her to live her life the way she needs to live her life and go down the path she wants to go down. So I did decide to take a break from our friendship. I communicated to her. I said, hey, I don't think that right now we are compatible support systems for each other. I don't think we can give each other what we want and need. I'm hurting you. You're misunderstanding me, because she had this perception of me that was so fucking like removed from who I was as a person, and I was like, this isn't my best friend anymore. I'm still actually learning like what I want out of friendship right now. Like right now I am alone. Like I have connections in my life. I do have friendships, which I'm very thankful for, but I currently don't have anybody in my life right now where I feel super aligned with, like I had with Emma in the past, where I want to kind of create roots with them and where I want to spend more time with them, and I even want to call or text them. I want to continue honing in on what I want out of friendship. What do I consider to be my standard of friendship, and what am I looking for in my relationships? Something I've been having to process in my life is how good my life is. I have this amazing apartment and it is currently tailored to me. This is my study area. I have my desk, my kitchen, I have my like floor. Well, it's kind of a mess right now because hopefully my AC will be getting fixed tomorrow. But I have my loft up top, like I have my outside porch. My life has never been this good. My life has never been this autonomous, secure. I've never been this happy. Like, I'm not always happy. Life is not about happiness, but like I am happy with my circumstances because I've created these circumstances. I didn't just settle with the circumstances I was given. And I'm always willing to change my circumstances if I'm no longer aligning with them or no longer feel fulfilled by them. But I've never had a life this good. And right now I feel like regardless of my mental illness and the ways I've struggled and depression, and I'm human, so I'm gonna be messy, I'm gonna be ugly sometimes, but I am like marinating in good. And all my life, all I did was marinate in bad, and now I'm having to learn how to tolerate boredom. I am going to be bored sometimes, and I'm going to be bored in a home that I love. I'm going to be bored in a home where I have so many different opportunities of what I can do with my time, and I've chosen what those opportunities are, and that's something I very much value. And so I'm very thankful that I get to marinate in the decisions that I've made in life. My life is a reflection of my choices and my decisions. And that used to be such a negative thing for me because my lifestyle was always so polarizingly harmful towards myself, and I was always being treated so harmfully. But now that I have so much more control, like there is just so much good in my life, and I have control and I have responsibility, and I really love myself and I really value myself. And so I get to marinate in this. This is typical, this is standard, and this is what I wish life was for everyone. So I'm going to continue working hard to be a secure person so that way I can create businesses, create plans, do things that help other people achieve this the way that I have been able to. Something I've always really struggled with in my relationships, whether it's familial or relationships from work or friendships, is feeling tolerated. I don't like feeling tolerated. I want someone to love me. Like I want the people in my life to love me and to value having me around. I want people to value what I can do, and I want people to value who I am. I don't want them to just tolerate me for the time that they have to. With work, that's normal, right? You just have to tolerate people and then you don't have to hang out outside of work or anything. But with my family, I oftentimes feel tolerated. Like they just tolerate my existence because I am against the Bible, like I'm against religion, all this kind of stuff. So like I must be this horrible, bad person. I must be this unloving person that nobody would want to surround themselves with, which they don't have to surround themselves with me if they don't want to. But I also don't want people to put themselves in situations where they hang out with me or feel as though they feel compelled to have to hang out with me or have to tolerate me more than they want to. I want to be cherished. I want to be appreciated in the way that I cherish and appreciate everyone else for their value. I don't agree with everyone. I don't even respect a lot of people for the things that they believe or do, but I do try to appreciate the value that they can give, and I try to learn the lessons that I can learn from them and accept them for who they are and not just try to change them to who I want them to be. I genuinely believe that every single person on this earth has value, and value inherently is really perceptual. So of course this is going to be based on my own biases, preferences, like my experience in life and all this kind of stuff, right? But I do perceive every single person in life, no matter how fucking horrible you are or how amazing and great you are, like every single person has value in their own form. There is something to gain from everyone, you know? So I try to love people for them, but I often feel just tolerated, and I don't like that feeling. And that's something I want to continue exploring within myself and try to acknowledge more in my relationships, who's tolerating me and who's loving me. I wanted to talk about identity and my identity, and like my identity is constantly going to change, right? Because my sense of self, my self-concept, my ego is constantly going to evolve as I evolve and as I have more experiences and I have more awareness. But I've been working really hard to hone in on the idea that I cannot identify myself by the good things that I have. I have so many good things. I have such an amazing life. Like I genuinely sometimes can't comprehend everything that I have. I just sit on my loft and I'm just grateful. I'm like, this is my life. I don't want to identify by all the good things I have, because having good things doesn't make me a good person. And I still try not to define myself as a good person. I'm trying to stop using the words good and bad as often as I have, because I think they're such ambiguous terms at this point, and everybody has different standards and everybody has different values and everybody has different perceptions on what is good and what is bad. Based on my standards and values, I would say I'm a good person, but I try not to define myself as a good person, if that makes sense, because I'm going to do do bad things sometimes, and I've done bad things before. We are going to make mistakes. We are going to make unproductive decisions. We're going to make harmful decisions. If we shame ourselves, we're never going to learn from our mistakes. And if we glorify ourselves, we're never going to be humble enough to connect with people in a way where we can learn from them because we think we're better than everyone. We can't fit into these rigid boxes. Life is not rigid like that. Life is so nuanced, complex, so colorful. Life is so beautiful. And so I don't feel the need to put myself in that box anymore. If I identify myself as a good person, or I identify by myself all the good things I have, guess what? If I do something harmful or unproductive, suddenly my entire self-concept is fucking destroyed because now I'm no longer a good person. I'm not all good. If I lose my apartment, if I lose the good things I have, oh my god, I've lost my entire self-concept because I tied my identity to the materialistic things that I had, you know? I want to identify myself with my values, my passions, my hobbies, like my soul. Like, again, my intentions being the biggest one, but obviously there's intentions and impact, but my intentions probably being the biggest thing. Identity is just in and of itself so complex. The ego is so complex. Our ego is our individuality within a collective. And a lot of people, they try to remove themselves as an individual, not only because it's responsibility. Well, actually, no, I think it most times is because of the amount of responsibility it takes to be responsible for yourself. We have a responsibility to be an individual because we are an individual within a collective, but we also have a responsibility of being a part of the collective. And so it's a lot of responsibility of learning how to balance being your own person while still considering other people. Like, you have to consider yourself. You kind of have to consider yourself first and foremost, but then once you learn how to do that, sometimes you're going to consider things more than yourself, and you're going to be okay with that. You're not going to be abandoning yourself to consider them because you're not going to be considering yourself at all. Fuck what I think. Well, fuck what I feel. Your ego is important, and when people try to remove themselves of their responsibility as an individual and they only perceive themselves to be a part of a collective, then that self-abandonment, that self-neglect starts harming other people. It starts having a negative effect on society because people aren't being themselves. They're being what they think they should be. Then they're only living in a state of expectations. They're not living in a state of intention. I just think it's important to take responsibility for yourself, your identity, your ego, because your ego is not something you can get rid of. It's something to be aware of, and that is something that I think a lot of people fundamentally misunderstand. But I think that as time goes on, as a collective, we will gain more awareness and we will learn more. That will continue to shift in the culture, and I hope that more and more people stop relinquishing their own responsibility and they're able to start taking on more responsibility and start living life more fulfilled, because outsourcing everything doesn't always lead to a more fulfilling life. Sometimes when you try to make everything easy, you choose the easiest path, you choose the path of least resistance, it ends up being underwhelming and you don't feel fulfilled because you're not being challenged. And challenge is a very big part of life. It's how you learn, it's how you change, it's how you grow. And so when people don't take on responsibility, they're not challenging themselves. And so again, this is like a huge conversation, but I think I'm gonna end this part of the video here. Thank you so much for watching this video. And if you watch to the end, I just hope that you have a great day and you love yourself and you understand that you are capable of so much more than what society or yourself tries to tell you sometimes. Please just leave this video knowing that you are sexy, you are valid, and you are so loved, and I will see you in the next video.
Hope you like my videos. Is there anything else I'm supposed to say as a YouTuber?